Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to our 205th weekly webcast. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. Come on in, Dylan. Sorry, real life interruption. Yeah, you want to ask me a question? What's going on?
You charge a tracker?
I did charge a tracker.
I can't get it back in.
Okay. Okay, it's okay. Just push it back in. You'll be okay. Thanks. Sorry, guys. That was a real life interruption. Close the door all the way, please. I love you. He's using an e-bike and there's a charging issue. Welcome to our 205th weekly webcast. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to kick it off with discussing options, okay, options 101, and then I'll take your questions. And so what I'll do actually is I'll use the example of Coca-Cola as a way to protect your shares. So think of options like it's an insurance contract, kind of like you have insurance on your house or your health in case something goes wrong. And what you can do is if you own a share of Coca-Cola and you want to protect that share, right, in case it goes down, well, you can either sell Coca-Cola shares or what you can do is you can buy an insurance contract on it. Now, why would you not sell Coca-Cola, ticker KO, if you owned it and you were scared it was going to go down? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, in most countries, you pay less tax if you own something for more than 1 year. Okay, it's called long-term capital gains. Okay, so and that governments do that in order to try to incentivize citizens to not day trade because governments hate volatility. And so let's say that you've owned Coca-Cola for less than a year and you made a lot of money on it and you want to sell it yet because you'll pay a lot of taxes. Well, what you can do is you can buy an insurance contract or what's called a put, which will protect you in case Coca-Cola shares go down. Another reason that investors use options, puts and calls, which I'll explain in a second. Another reason investors do this is because big institutional investors at hedge funds, and when I used to manage a lot of money at hedge funds, what I would do is at the end of every quarter, I would want to sell certain stocks, but I didn't want competing hedge funds to know that I sold them or started to sell them. And maybe I didn't want investor relations from big companies that recently went public to know that I didn't sell their shares, for example. So you can buy insurance, which is called a put. Okay, so a put is like a protective coat that will protect this in case it goes down. So if the shares in Coke go down, then the value of the put goes up and you don't lose any money. And there's tons of different types of options contracts I'll explain really quickly today as well. Now, a put, the most you can lose is the amount you paid for this put. Okay, it's a small amount you pay, and and it expires on a certain date as well. Usually expires worthless unless it's in the money, which I'll talk about in a second. Okay, so I describe what puts are. Let me explain quickly what calls are, and then we'll look at plenty of examples as well. And if you have certain examples of options you want me to look at and analyze for you, please let me know here in real time, and I'll humbly help you out. So a call is the opposite of a put. A call basically means you pay a small amount of money, and for a limited amount of time, if a stock goes up a lot, you can make a fortune, right? You can make 100 times this amount if the stock goes through the roof, which is rare but happens with biotech stocks. So let me show you how to value a put and a call, and then I'll show you some real examples. And if you guys have examples of real puts or calls or that you want me to value for any stock, let me know and I'll do it. Okay. All right, so when you create an option, it's not like just buying a stock. Like when you buy a stock, you just buy it and it goes up, you make money, goes down, you lose money unless you're short. When you buy a put, there's a bunch of different variables and calls, okay? One is it a call or is it a put, which is self-explanatory. Then you have to look at what's called the expiration date, okay? Now, and I'll get this in focus here, yeah, the expiration date. So what happens is these puts or calls, they're only valid and they're only worth something for a certain amount of time. Kind of like an insurance contract. Like if you get life insurance or insurance on your house, property insurance, it only lasts a certain amount of time, then you have to renew it. It's the same thing with options as well. There's an expiration date. Okay. And options usually expire on Fridays, unless Friday is a holiday. in which case it might be a Thursday. And I'll show you plenty of examples in a minute. Okay. The next thing you look at is volatility. And this one is crucial. So if a stock is very volatile, meaning it goes up and down a lot more than other stocks, then it's going to cost you a lot more money to buy an insurance contract on that, meaning a put or a call. Similarly, when it comes to health insurance, if you're in really bad shape and your heartbeat is really erratic or too fast, whatever, then what happens is the health insurance contract you're going to buy for yourself or life insurance is more expensive. So if a stock moves up and down like crazy, like Tesla or Netflix, which just reported earnings, both of them, I can talk about those two earnings reports if you want me to as well. If a stock is very volatile, then the option is going to be more expensive. So that's another ingredient into making this Coca-Cola option. Now, Coca-Cola is not as volatile as other stocks, and so the options are relatively cheap, but the market is expecting what's called implied volatility go up very soon, which I'll explain with a real example. And again, let me know any stock, and I'll take a look at the option for you. Then the last component we're going to look at, and there's a couple other ones as well, but I'm keeping this simple for me. The last one we're going to look at is the strike price. Okay, now what the strike price is the value at which, a level at which for a put or a call where it's worth money. So let's say that we own Coca-Cola. It's around $56 right now, and we wanted to get protection in case Coke dropped below 50. So we would buy a put with a strike price of 50, and if Coke goes below 50, then that option is in the money because it's below the strike price of 50. If it's at 50, it's called at the money. If it's above 50, it's called out of the money. And the same thing with calls. So if Coca-Cola, which is around $56 now, if I bought a call that had a strike price of $60, then as long as I owned that option right before it expires, if the price of Coke goes above $60, meaning the strike price is 60, then you make money. Okay, and of course you have to account for the price of the option as well when calculating that, which I'll show you as well. And there's a ton of other formulas that we can go through if you want me to, in terms of how to analyze options, right? Options are very complicated, and there's tons, and just to make it more complicated, it's all Greek to me. They give you these Greek formulas, right? And one of them is called theta. So theta means time decay. Vega, V for volatility, it's a measure of volatility. And there's other ones as well, gamma, delta, rho, etc. And I can go into more detail on these if you care. Okay, now let's go and take a look at Coca-Cola stock, and let's try to price a put or a call on Coke. So what I want to show you is that to find out if you can transact in options on a particular stock, you can do exactly this. So let's go together to Yahoo Finance. And by the way, everything I'm teaching you right now is in an options course I have, which is part of my MBA program. And you can go to learn.harounventures.com to learn more about that. Okay, but let's go to Yahoo Finance, okay? And what I'll do is I'll type in the ticker for Coke. Okay, and Coca-Cola right now is trading at 55 and change. So what you do, and this works for most stocks, is you click here on options, okay? Now, if you don't see any data on this page, it means you can't trade options on this particular stock. And usually more liquid stocks you can trade options on. Okay, and I recommend that if you guys are going to transact in options, take my course, my MBA program, whatever, but more importantly, I want you to practice with a paper portfolio for at least 6 months because you can lose more money than you invest. It can be deadly. Buy puts or calls, but never ever underwrite or sell puts and calls. Just buy puts and calls and use a paper portfolio first. Okay, so right here we could see the expiration date, which is one of the components here for Coca-Cola. Okay, so let's select January 19th of 2024, and it's almost always on a Friday. And let's go down and let's look at puts. Okay, and the way to read this is just the ticker. Okay, this is the last trade. This is the strike price, and you got the bid and the ask. Make sure to pay attention to volume and implied volatility, which I'll talk about in a minute. Okay, and implied volatility means what the market is expecting for volatility for a particular stock. So let's go down here to puts for Coca-Cola. Okay, puts that expire. Say I want to get protection for, I don't know, a year or two. That expire on Friday, January 19, 2024. And let's look here at the 50 strike price. Okay. Now, the way to value these things is I have a methodology which comes in my complete options course as well as in my my MBA degree program. And for those who already registered in the MBA degree program, you never pay for any new stuff I add. And this is added in FA44. That's Finance and Accounting Semester 4, Class 4. Okay, moving on. So in this dashboard here, which you'll all get if you take my course or my MBA program, you can select a beginner track or a genius track or an all track if you scroll down. Okay. And what we're going to do, and I'll show you this just really quickly, what's inside this. So you've got over here an introduction to options, okay, where I explain volatility, and there's plenty of exercises. I also explain how to go long or short stocks, which you have to understand if you're going to do options, especially if you're going to underwrite them. And then I explain option basics, strike price, etc., and how to price options. That's section 1 of the course. Section 2, I teach you how to value options. Okay, and I'll teach you about different Greek variables as well, and probability. And if you've ever learned statistics before and you're confused about it, I explain it from scratch in this options course, which is, again, part of my MBA degree program. And I make it fun to understand, too. Then I teach you how to value options using 3 methodologies. I always love to value stocks using 3 methodologies: price earnings, price revenue, DCF, etc. And I like the same thing with options, is to look at all 3 valuation methodologies. So one is called binomial option pricing. Another one is called Black-Scholes. Another one is called Monte Carlo pricing. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on valuing a put right now on Coca-Cola using the binomial option pricing methodology. So let's do this together. All right, so let me go back here to my main menu, and I'll select here, option strategy. And what we're going to do is, and I've got, by the way, I've got every single major option strategy you can think of in this course. Meaning if you just go long a call or long a put, which is what we're going to do in a minute, okay? Leaps, which basically means very long-term options. There's also a married put, which means you own a stock and you buy a put to offset it. You got straddles, which protects your upside downside, and you got tons of other ones like front spread with calls. I didn't know what icon to use here, so I use this. I don't know what that means. You got iron condors, etc. Okay, so let's go and let's value a put for Coca-Cola. And if you have questions, let me know as well. All right, so what we're going to do is in this Excel spreadsheet. And by the way, I'm adding to my MBA program a very comprehensive Excel course as well as how to program. That's coming up very, very soon. I'll release it for anybody that bought the program, the MBA program in January. You'll get it for free. All right, so first of all, we're going to go long, okay? We're going to do a U.S. stock. And what we're going to do is we're going to enter in here Coca-Cola, which is ticker KO. All right, great. All right, let's go to KO down here. HIJK. And you can also type in the ticker here if you want to. Oh my God, where's Coke? Here it is. I found it. Okay, good. Awesome. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to input all of this data here in order to value an option. And I'll explain exactly what this means. And again, if you have questions, let me know. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the volatility of Coca-Cola's stock over the past year. Ideally, you want to look at the past 6 months because Coke has been much more volatile, and the entire market has, in the past 6 months than a year ago, for obvious reasons. The market's going down. All right, so we'll just do it for a year for fun. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to download the market data for Coca-Cola for the past year. And so I created something here, and there's no macros in this at all, but this is going to download directly from Yahoo Finance a bunch of options data right here. So what we'll do is this is in comma separated value format. We're going to open it with Excel Hell as opposed to Keynote. I'm going to copy all this data, and this is just data on Coca-Cola over the past year, just stock data, I mean the stock price. Okay, so let me go back over here now to here. And then what I'll do is I'm going to paste all this data directly into my spreadsheet. Let me override that. Okay, good. All right, great. Now we have the historical data for Coca-Cola. So what's the current stock price of Coke? Let's just say it's, I don't know, 51.50 or 50. Actually, let me go here to find out the exact value. Keep this real. All right, so let's go here to Coke. Coca-Cola stock is 55.21. Great. Okay, so we'll enter in the price, which is one of the inputs here, 55. Whoops. 55, let's try it again. And let me actually move this over, I got it over a bit so you can see below my face, 55.21. It's tough doing these things live. Okay, we're going to select a put. Okay, good. Then we're going to select the strike price. So if Coke goes below 50 bucks, we want to be protected. We want that insurance policy on Coca-Cola. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove myself from the corner very quickly here. There's going to be a face off in the corner. It's a Canadian hockey term. I'm Canadian, I got to represent. Okay, here we go, good. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to select the expiration date. And as I mentioned earlier, options usually expire on Fridays, okay? So I'm going to select, let's go down here, make this interesting. Yeah, I'll select January 19th, 2024. Okay, great. Then you put in the interest rate, and interest rates have been going up a lot. And this is the 1-year Treasury rate. You can get it from treasury.gov. And that's basically the risk-free rate. And so the value of options have gone up a lot because interest rates have risen recently as well. It's one of the inputs. Okay, and then we're going to go down here, and we're going to look here at volatility. So volatility right here, this is how volatile the stock was in the past year. Okay, this here is called the historical volatility. And the implied volatility is much higher, and I'll explain that in a minute. And if you take the course, you can read through all this to find out the probability, where Coke stock is going to be in the next, 1 or 2 years here. Okay, so the option value here is $1.86. That's how we value this option. Now, I'm going to go to see what the market is valuing this option at, and that is the Coca-Cola January 19th, that's a Friday, 2024 expiration date, 50 put. And they're probably going to value it higher because the volatility the market's expecting is a lot higher. So let's click here to go to that directly. Okay, so again, if you're on the summary page for any stock, you can select options. Then if there's data here, it means you can transact options. If the stock doesn't trade much, there's probably not going to be options. Or if it's a new IPO, not yet. We'll select here the expiration date, and it's going to be a put. And so down here, the 50, okay, the 50 is being valued, whoa, much higher than what I expected. And the reason is because the market's implied volatility, the market is expecting 24%. Okay, that's a lot higher volatility than the historical data is implying. And usually the implied volatility is a little bit too high, and we can talk about that if you want to, which is why option sellers make more money than options buyer. So let's go and plug that in here to my spreadsheet, 24% right here. So we'll hard code that in instead. This is the implied volatility. And we'll scroll down here, and we'll get the proxy. We'll get the price of this option. Whoops, hold on a second. Scroll down here. Here we go. So it's around $2.70, right? And so I think that this option is probably a little bit overvalued right here. Now, in terms of what does that mean with this option, it basically means that if the price of Coca-Cola goes down below 48 and change, then I'll make money. And the reason I say that below instead of just below 50 is because I had to pay $2 and change for that option. So what's the most amount of money we can make in this option? And by the way, when you buy options, they're always in lots of 100. So if I were to buy this option here, I wouldn't pay $3.10. I would pay $310. Okay, they're always in lots of 100. So if I buy an options contract, meaning 100 of them, the most I can make is if Coke goes to 0. But if Coke goes up, the most I can lose, because I paid in my hypothetical model here $2.68, the most I can lose is $268. So if Coke goes up to $100, highly unlikely, but the most I lose is $268. If it goes up to $1,000, same thing. That's the most I'll lose. If it goes to $50, I'm still losing a bit of money, right? If it goes to $48, I'm still losing a bit until it goes below 50 minus 2.68. So around 46, 47 or so, I'm starting to make money. And so graphically, we can see here that we make money. And let me get a little bit more real estate here by minimizing all of this here. Okay. Graphically, we can see, please update sheet. Where's the update here? Okay, let me undo that. It's always harder when I'm doing these live demos. But graphically, we can see we can see that we make the most amount of money if Coke goes to 0, which is down here. Okay, and let me actually hide this. Might be easier. Okay, good. Goes to 0. Okay. And then I created here reports as well. So if you clicked here, you actually can create a report, and you can print it out, or what you can do is you can email it to, I don't know, people you're interviewing with. So you can put your name, email, and phone number here, and that will be on the bottom of this one-page report. So let me print this report here. I'll just print it to PDF to save paper. And I've got 35 different option strategies, like I'm going to show you right here. Okay, now let me put myself back on in the corner so I can explain this really quickly. So this here, and I love one-page reports, right? So this one-pager explains everything about this option. And again, I have over 30 different option strategies here as well. Here's the ticker. It explains more about it, maximum profit and loss, Greek statistics analysis, and other stuff below that. Okay. So now let me go back and see if you guys have any questions. If you want, I can talk about some of the more advanced stuff as well, like the Greek formulas you use to value options or to analyze them, etc. I can talk about historical versus implied volatility as well, if you want me to. It's something people usually have a lot of questions about. Okay. All right, let's do this. Let me get to your questions now. Answer them in the order in which you guys type. Thanks. All right, first up, I've got Peter from Romania. You wrote, hey, Chris, I hope you remember me. I do. I think you're 19 or 20 years old. You're a big soccer fan, football fan, and you're based in Romania. You wrote, I want to ask you if online courses in general about coding, finance, or anything are taken into account when trying to get a job. Do they give us an advantage? I really think they do. And there was data released by the Department of Education last night in the United States that stipulates that the number of people going to university is declining by about 1% every year. In fact, fewer people are going to university now than before COVID. And there's only 2 types of colleges that have seen an increase in enrollments. One is traditional African-American colleges. The other one is online, which is what I'm doing as well. And there's a lot of companies actually that don't require you to have a degree to work there. Big companies like Google, Facebook, Apple. It's not just tech stocks, but also Wells Fargo, Bank of America, etc. And so educational institutions are in secular decline. People are realizing that the system is rigged, and a lot of times you only get into a good school because your parents went there or because your last name indicates that you're a billionaire. And we saw a lot of scandals with USC a couple of years ago as well. And so again, I think that this is the last generation. My kids, I feel like they're, and you met Dylan earlier today, he's going to middle school now. But my kids, I think, are the last generation that feel that maybe they should think about going to university. Yeah. And I think in the future, what's going to happen in my lifetime, I'm going to live for a very long time, although I am aging clearly. But in my lifetime, I think what's going to happen is only 50 universities are going to be in existence. And people are going to think to themselves, I'm not going to bother going to university unless it's a great brand name like a Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, whatever it is. Yeah. And so when you take these online courses, what I recommend that you do is you put them on your LinkedIn profile. It can only help. It can't hurt at all. For example, if you want to get a programming job, taking a course in Python by Dr. Angela Yu on Udemy, for example, if you put that certificate on your LinkedIn profile, it will help. I think it will. Yeah. Regardless of whether or not you have a university degree. Okay. I'm trying to whiten my teeth so my dentist said drink out of a straw for a while. Okay. And we're out of sippy cups. Okay. All right. Next up, I've got Azaid. How are you? Good morning. Galileo says, nice to see you, you kiddo, to my son Dylan. And hi, Chris. Keep keeping it real. Yeah. He was knocking. I thought it was an emergency. Well, the emergency is that the e-bike is not fully charged. Okay. All right. Manas, how are you, brother? Good to see you. Manas wrote, good morning, my dear mentor. Great to see you. By the way, my son, the helmet he was wearing, it was a MIPS helmet. Make sure when you buy a bike helmet for your kids or yourself, that it's MIPS, MIPS. Just works much better, safer. Okay. So Manas wrote, good morning, Chris. What a beautiful day as always it is. And then he wrote, I have a lot to ask, and let's begin the day by pushing the goalpost oot, which you spell correctly like a Canadian. Represent. Thank you. Good to see you. We have Rita from Melbourne. Beautiful day today. Great to see you, buddy. It was good to see you on yesterday's webcast, too. You're a class act. You wrote, good morning to you and all my fellow MBA students. Good to see you, buddy. Okay. And then Manas wrote, Dylan, my son, looks angry and confused there when you put a smiley face. Yeah, he was confused about some tracker battery thing. Yeah. Moving on to Mahesh, who wrote, thank you for creating the options course. You're most welcome. It's in-depth and long. In the MBA program, which sections are essential to know before starting options trading live? Yeah. So if you guys are in the MBA program, and anybody that's bought the MBA program or will buy the MBA program, you get all of my content for free forever and a lot of exclusive stuff I don't release into courses. But in the MBA program, just go to FA44, that's Finance and Accounting Semester 4, class number 4. I would take the whole thing and I would practice for 6 months at least before placing your first options trade. And your first option trade should be you buying a put or a call. Okay, don't underwrite or sell these things because the losses can literally be unlimited. And Warren Buffett once referred to derivatives, of which options are derivatives. Warren Buffett referred to derivatives as financial weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, so just be really, really careful. And the derivatives market is massive, man. It's 6 times bigger than the value of all stocks added up together. Yeah, it's huge. And options is one of the bigger components. Okay, next up, Mahesh wrote, I heard focus on 1 to 3 strategies and master them first. If you are asked to choose 2 strategies, which ones would you choose? Thanks a lot. Yeah, you're most welcome. So what I would do is I'd start with the basic ones first. Okay, so I would go here to, in your spreadsheet there, to section 3, exercise 3.1, and I'd focus on long call. Okay, then after you master long call, and that's a bullish strategy, meaning when the stock goes up. After you master that, then I would look at, hold on a second, I would look at a long put. I would master that. Okay, and then after that, I would work on mastering what's called a married put. Okay, which basically means you own the stock and you buy a put to offset the, yeah. And I don't know what image to come up with, and Lego was the theme here, so I came up with that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Next up, Galileo said, Chris, what are your thoughts on DigitalOcean stock, ticker DOCN? I don't know anything about that stock. I've heard of it, of course. If you're going to do research on stocks, what I recommend that you do, if you're in the MBA degree program, you can actually go to it's EMS 4-2. That's Economics Management and Strategy, semester 4, class number 2. And what you can do is there's an investment research dashboard I provide you with. It's 100 steps for analyzing a stock. Okay, and basically I ask you a bunch of questions, and then what you do is you answer the questions here, and then after you answer all the questions, what's created for you, like 800 questions, I go into a lot of depth, is a 1-page report, and this is just dummy data, that shows you the fundamentals, valuation, and lastly, the technicals. Okay. And what's also part of this, and this is based on my experience working in the hedge fund industry and at Goldman Sachs on Wall Street for years, what's also part of this is a 150-page report you can export as well. And then I have a lot of dashboards, graphics set up for you, analyzing based on all the data you input. And on every single one of these tabs, this is qualitative research, quantitative, and then we also have down here financial research. On every one of these tabs here, I have a video, and the video will explain exactly how to use that particular tab in a lot of detail.
It's an overview.
Yeah. Okay. Let me get back over here, and I'm not going to keep playing that. I'll conserve bandwidth. All right, let's try this angle here. And Dylan left the curtains open there. That's okay. All right. Okay, next up, Charles wrote, good morning to Prof. Haroun and everyone. Blessings, great to see you. And thank you for joining my MBA program as well. Okay, next up, Julie. Oh my God, Julie, it's been 8 million years. Julie worked at Goldman Sachs at the same time I did. And she was actually one of the founders at Goldman Sachs of CTW, which is community teamworks, which means at Goldman, every year you have to spend 1, 2, or 3 days doing charity work. And when I was there, I helped to put computers into a school in Harlem as part of CTW. Great to see you, Julie. Julie graduated from my Platinum MBA program in our first class. So she started in 2019. It's wonderful to see you. She lives in Germany, works in private wealth management. She's from Philadelphia, and her brother has a big solar company. Okay. And then you wrote here, oh, no surprise, you're asking about a solar company. You wrote, hi, Chris, can you do puts and calls for SunPower SPWR? Probably. So the way to know if you can do puts and calls is what you do is you go over to, give me a second here. You go to Yahoo Finance and you type in SPWR. I'm thinking yes. Okay. Because this is a pretty liquid stock. Yeah. So it's over $1 billion market cap, most likely. Yeah. So you click here on options, and yes, you can. You can. Yeah. And you'll notice that you don't see as many contracts here as you did for Coca-Cola. And the reason is because Coca-Cola is a much bigger company with much higher volume as well. The higher the volume and the larger the market cap, usually the more options contracts you can invest in. And here you can only go up until Friday. It's always Friday, December 15, 2023. Yeah. And be careful with this as well, because you'll see that the volume is really low, right? And if you invest in something when the volume is low, be it an options contract or a stock, and if you buy at the market value, instead of putting in a limit, a price, you'll get screwed on pricing. Yeah. Look here, for example. Here's a great example. So the bid is 710. The ask is 1090. That is a very wide spread. You can drive a truck through that, as they'd say on Wall Street. Okay. So good to see you. Okay. And Omer said, good morning. Good morning to you too. Manas wrote, my mentor, what are your thoughts on options in cryptos? Is it possible? I saw a project worth 10 million doing this. What are your thoughts? Be really, really careful. At the very last second, when I published this spreadsheet here, I removed the ability to do cryptos because they weren't that liquid. So let me show you what that means. So right here, when you select your instruments, stock, international stock, country ETF, sector ETF, whatever it is, or commodity ETF, there's a gap right here. And that gap is, I had cryptos there and I took it out in the last second. This here is just commodity ETFs, yeah? But what you can do if you want to is you can right click on one of these tabs and select unhide, and you can add or enable that column. And if anybody took this course or did this in my MBA program, I can show you how to add it back. But I took it out because cryptos aren't that liquid. Yeah. I'd be really, really careful. Perhaps you can look into a crypto ETF if you want to do options on that. Yeah. And check to see if options even exist for that crypto. Yeah. All right. And the way to do research on ETFs is you can go to etfdb.com. That's etfdatabase.com, where there's 6,000 ETFs you can do research on. Make sure, number one, the fees are low, meaning less than 0.7%. And also make sure that the liquidity is high, meaning it trades a lot. Then after you get the ETF ticker there for a crypto, for example, or a crypto ETF, then you can go to Yahoo Finance to see if they have options commensurate with how I showed you just now with SunPower and Coca-Cola ticker KO earlier today. Okay. All right. Next up, Alex P. Alex P. Keaton wrote, good morning, Chris. Good morning. Do you think the principles of mathematics work similarly to the principles of programming languages? For example, if your syntax is off while programming, it can mess up the operation. Yeah. So most programming languages use bedmass, which means brackets, and all other stuff after that. So it's quite similar. But when you're programming, what you have to do, though, is you've got to specify or declare the variable. So you need to declare the variable as either being a short integer or long integer or a byte or currency or date or string. So it adds another element to it. And the reason you want to do that is because if you misclassify your variable, it'll take up a hell of a lot more space when you compile and run your program. Yeah, and I talk about this in a lot more detail in my MBA degree program. In January, I have a module coming out Actually, it's going to be like 100 hours where I introduce you to programming from scratch. And we start with object-oriented stuff. And if you meet me in real life, you'll know I'm a tiny human being. Sorry. But I teach you graphically. And we start in Excel, actually. And then I'll do Python later. And I used to be a coder, a developer, many years ago, back in the 1990s. And I still am today. I love it. But I'm going to teach it to you in a graphical way with subs and subs, modules, projects, etc. Yeah. Okay. And the reason we start with Excel, when I'm teaching how to code is because within Excel, you can use Visual Basic for applications. And the beautiful thing about using Excel to learn programming is you can record yourself doing stuff on the screen, like moving your mouse around, selecting a cell, and making it bold. And then you can stop recording and look at the contents of the macro, meaning the contents of that code, and change around the code a bit. Yeah. All right. Next up, GHG. First time I've seen you. I hope you join us again. Thank you. Wrote, Chris, what are your thoughts on Netflix earnings and their advertising strategy? Yeah. So Netflix came out with great earnings last night. As many of you know, the stock was up 15% as of a couple minutes ago. And what happened was Netflix subscriber growth was twice as high as what the market was expecting. And so a lot of the increase in the stock today, if it holds, is based on short covering. Like a lot of hedge funds are freaking out because their short thesis is now corrupted because the company is growing again. Now, the bulk of that growth that they saw in their subscribers came from Asia and relatively new markets for Netflix. And Netflix is much less dependent on the United States than it used to be. And there's a number of shows that did extraordinarily well for them that also helped growth. There were some Korean shows, and there's also that Dahmer show, which I can't get myself to watch, but that apparently did extraordinarily well. Yeah. Now, in terms of their advertising strategy, they're going to have a lower skewer, a lower pricing point product that's going to be $6.99, which they're going to offer very, very soon. It makes sense, especially when they compete against Amazon. So if you have Amazon Prime, you get Amazon videos for free. But there's commercials during it as well. Yeah. And so competition is good for the consumer, I guess, a lower pricing point. Yeah. But the problem with Netflix and all streaming companies, and online education is seeing this big time too. The problem is there's a hell of a lot more competition today than there was in the past. So when Netflix missed earnings the previous 2 quarters, part of it was because of the COVID hangover, meaning a lot of people were going outdoors and not streaming as much stuff. And part of it was because there's just a lot more competition out there. You know, Netflix and online education website companies have to compete with new service offerings like Disney Plus, Paramount streaming, etc. So there's a lot more competition out there. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Craig wrote, hey, Chris, man, I've been going through your silver MBA. Thank you. And then you wrote, your investment framework could be used in a long and short portfolio using structured trades with options to represent my macro views. Awesome. Thank you for that. And in my MBA degree program, and you can learn more about that by going to harounmba.com. But in my MBA degree program, I provide you with all the tools or arrows in your quiver or tools in your toolbox so you can work smarter, not harder, and create business results much faster in terms of investment write-ups, or it can be in terms of business plans. In the 3rd semester, I have a venture capital boot camp where I teach you how to write a business plan from scratch. And failing to plan is planning to fail. Don't ever start a company without writing one of these things first. Yeah. I provide you with many templates, and I keep adding to them as well. And I'm adding programming as a brand new part to the MBA in January, as I mentioned. Yeah. Okay, next up, Manas wrote, if a company is public and has been making losses since its beginning, is it a broken company or a broken stock? Yeah, it might be neither. So a lot of times what happens is venture capitalists invest in startups, tech startups, for example, and they love to invest as revenue growth is accelerating. And the second that revenue growth stops accelerating, but is still positive, but it's decelerating, then they call up their investment banking buddies and say, hey, do you want to take this company public? So revenue growth is decelerating, and 99.9% of all publicly traded companies have revenue growth that's positive, but growth is decelerating. And so they go public when growth is decelerating. Now, a lot of times when growth stocks go public, they're not profitable yet. And that's okay, because investors, growth investors like to invest in companies that are growing quickly, that can be very profitable many years into the future. And so what happens quite often is companies are not profitable for the first 1, 2, or 3 years when they go public. And if they are profitable, it's on a GAAP basis. It's kind of like accounting's manipulation that's legal. Yeah. And so the way to value companies, and I talked about this in last week's webcast, and I talk about this in much more detail in my MBA degree program. The way to value companies that are not profitable is to use a price to revenue multiple, meaning on the denominator is revenue, and on the numerator is price. So for every $1 in revenue the company has, how many times that $1 are you going to pay? And you can also do a PE valuation analysis on that company, but you got to use your earnings estimate in your financial model, which I teach you about in my MBA program. You got to use your earnings forecast in 5 or 10 years, and that's how I love to value companies, is based on the earnings estimate I have in 5 or 10 years, and that way I can stomach the volatility of stocks. And I can tell myself I don't know the path, but I know the destination, meaning my target price. Okay. All right. Next up, Andre, thank you for that. God bless you. You didn't have to donate. Thank you. That will go directly to Project Magoo. Thank you so much for that. In Project Magoo, we're finishing up our the first school we built in Rwanda. Thank you for that. And we're starting our next one next year in Kenya with Marin Koros, who's another one of my MBA students. And she's going to be on the webcast maybe next week or the week after, showing her incredible startup. It's amazing. Yeah, she inspires me. Thank you. Okay, next up, Manas wrote, Tulsi Gabbard, the congresswoman, just left the space and blamed the government for all the wrongdoing, including Russia-Ukraine unrest. Was she correct, or another political statement? I have no idea. I have no idea, but I do know that in hindsight, and hindsight's 2020, of course, that the Biden administration and the Trump administration probably aren't happy that they worked on pulling troops out of Afghanistan, because, for decades during the Cold War, when I was a kid, the United States had troops in Afghanistan. It's like a chess game to stabilize the region in terms of Russia not trying to spread communist filth to other countries. Yeah. But now that America doesn't have troops in Afghanistan, it takes a little bit of pressure off Russia, and they can try to reassemble the USSR. And also other countries like Saudi don't really care as much about relationships with the West. Probably shouldn't go there, but I think you know what I'm getting at. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Priam wrote, "Hey Chris, you look fabulous. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's fun playing grown up. I've got really cheap track pants on. My favorite are cargo pants that have like 8 million zipper pockets in them. Yeah. Thank you for that. You wrote, hope you're doing well. Likewise. I want to ask you something. I know it will sound obvious, but how does investing work? Yeah. And I teach about this in my MBA program from scratch. You don't have a background in accounting or finance at all to understand this. But if I could tell you one thing that would help you with investing, it would be this. Try to invest in companies where you tell yourself that in 5 years, this company will be more relevant or less relevant than it is today. And of course, there's a lot more steps in terms of understanding what to invest in. But that way you'll think long term. And it will stop you from being seduced by buying value traps, meaning stocks that are cheap for a reason. It'll stop you from buying value traps like Yahoo or Research in Motion. And once a technology company, or any company for that matter, for the most part, starts becoming a little bit less relevant, it's game over. Because most turnarounds don't work in companies. 1 per decade works in the tech sector. So the bottom line is, ask yourself, in 5 years, will this product or service or company or market be more relevant than it is today? Yeah. Okay, and that's why people pay, nosebleed level valuations for companies like Tesla. People think in 5 years Tesla will be worth more than it is today. Tesla reported earnings last night. They had great earnings. The issue is that guidance was worse than expected because they're expecting a recession, which I think is inevitable at this point. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Yassine wrote, how do you value a pre-seed startup? Yeah. So the question is, how do you value a company before they've raised any money? Yeah. So what you have to do, and I teach about this in semester 3 in the entrepreneurship track in my MBA degree program, what you have to do is you have to create a financial model and forecast what you think revenue, earnings, etc., will be in 5, 10, or 15 years. And then you can value the company based on price to revenue multiple as well as a price to earnings multiple. And for price to earnings, the way to think about it is, and think of the denominator as being the number 1 for the rest of your life in any fraction you see. So price is the numerator, earnings is the denominator. And what that means is for every $1 in earnings, how many times that $1 are investors willing to pay? If you think a company should be valued at 10 times earnings, 10 times PE, that means for every $1 the company has in earnings, investors are paying $10. And of course, it's all predicated on the growth rate as well. Yeah. But the bottom line is you have to create a pretty detailed financial model, which I teach about in my venture capital bootcamp in my MBA program. For those of you in my MBA program, you can always go directly to that section by going to E3 1 through E3 5. That's Entrepreneurship Semester 3, Class 1 through 5. Yeah. And of course, I give you all the templates you need to value companies, and also 25 templates to create slides to raise money, 50 different business plan templates as well. Yeah. Okay. And then Yassine wrote, do you have any connections with angels or venture capitals who invest in disruptive pre-seed startups? Yeah, I would say more so angels. Venture capital firms usually don't invest in pre-seed stuff. And for those of you that are curious, what does that seed word mean? Well, think of yourself taking a mustard seed and planting it. Okay, and then it grows after 1 year to this big, after 2 years this big, 3 years this big, and it's massive in the 4th year. So a seed investment is the first stage when you invest in a company. And usually it's some rich dude. And there's some institutions that do it too, like Band of Angels, who I partnered with before. And once a company grows into a little mustard bush, it's killing me. I want to make a biblical reference, but I won't. Okay. But once the mustard seed grows into a little bush, right? Then what happens is you have a venture capital firm like Sequoia invest. Then when it gets bigger, another venture capital firm like Kleiner Perkins. And then right before the IPO, the best venture capital firm on the planet, which is called Meritech, will invest. And then it's massive and it goes public. Yeah. Now, the best way to get investors in your company, and I've humbly raised and managed over $1 billion in my career, the best way to do it is to network aggressively using what I teach in the personal growth classes in the first semester of my MBA degree program. What I teach you works. I have one student that graduated last year from my platinum MBA program named Jim Tusif. He used my methodologies. He raised $11.5 million for his startup. And a lot of that money came from Tim Draper's firm. Tim Draper is one of the first investors in eBay, Tesla, SpaceX, Twitter, etc. Yeah. Now, your network is your net worth, and relationships are more important than product knowledge. And so what I recommend doing in order to learn how to network, aside from taking my MBA degree program, is go to my website, which is harounmba.com. And if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, you can download my networking book for free. It's called Networking to Get Customers, a Job, or Anything You Want. And again, this is free. Yeah. And it's a couple hundred pages, and there's a couple hours of YouTube links in there as well. Yeah. Okay. Next up, hey, Craig. Craig wrote, Chris, will you teach long and short portfolio strategy? Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's in my MBA degree program. For those of you that signed up, you go to FA44, and I teach you exactly how longs and shorts works with stocks, with different securities, and with options too. And in terms of portfolio management and risk management, there's a lot of that stuff in the MBA program in the finance and accounting classes. Yeah. Okay. And Yassim wrote, can we add you as an advisor just on our pitch deck if we join your silver MBA? Yeah, I'd love to. It's hard for me to do that. If you're in my platinum MBA program, I'm not trying to get you guys to upgrade to it, but I can help out a bit more because we can do one-on-ones. But if you want in the silver MBA, you can always ask me questions, and you can ask me them over Zoom as well. And so every single week, as many of you know, after this call ends, every week between 10 and 11 a.m. Pacific time on Thursdays, I do a 1-hour Zoom call only with my silver MBA students. And the way to find the link to the weekly Zoom link is just go to the very first lecture in the curriculum in the silver MBA program. And I'm happy to humbly help you out there the best I can. Thanks. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, my mentor, call me Chris, please. People are leaving India because the government is, and you're based in India, yeah. People are leaving India because the government is neglecting and suppressing Web 3.0 development. Will actually push all of the Indian talent to European countries and Dubai and the United Arab Emirates. Yeah, of course, Dubai is part of that. I don't think so. I think the Indian government is wicked smart. I don't think that they would shoot themselves in the foot by, trying to hamper growth of the next paradigm shift or next platform computing that matters. So I wouldn't worry about that longer term. Maybe there's certain restrictions for national security reasons when it comes to certain types of cloud architecture or certain cryptocurrency architecture. I don't know, but I would not worry about that longer term. Yeah. And the problem with starting a company in Dubai, which is in the United Arab Emirates, is if you're not a Dubai national, which is only 15% of people, and you start a company there and you fail, you're kicked out of the country. That's right. Yeah. Not much risk taking. Okay. Although I do like Dubai. I love it. I've raised a lot of money from that region of the world too. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, I watched The Wolf of Wall Street recently, and I saw one scene, Jordan's yacht sunk when they were caught in the storm. It is before Jordan got investigated from the FBI, and then he exposed his pal. Oh, that was it. Okay. Yeah. I published a blog called Wall Street Pro Humbly Reacts to The Wolf of Wall Street. And somebody asked about that. I couldn't remember that scene, but thank you for reminding me. Yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah. All right, we have Norm McDonald from Toronto. Hey, Norm, how are you? You wrote, hi, Chris and fellow Canadians. Who should become the new prime minister now that Liz Truss has resigned? I have no idea. She had the shortest term in history for a prime minister in Canada. And there's basically a power vacuum after Boris was booted. I was a big fan of Boris, too. Of course, he did some unethical things with respect to going to parties without a mask during COVID when he told people not to do that. But I really liked the last comment he made when he was in Parliament, which was stay close to the Americans. Yeah. And what he was saying is it's not rah, rah America, but we have to make sure that communism doesn't spread, because what's breaking my heart since COVID started, and I've been saying this for years now, is the whole world is moving farther to the left, which means human rights are taken away. And I hate anything that takes away from my students' ability to reach their full potential in life. My favorite license plate in the world is a license plate of the great state of New Hampshire, where on the bottom it says live free or die. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know who the next prime minister is going to become. Probably more liberal, just given where we are in the world right now. Yeah. Okay. Which is not the party I vote for. And don't ever tell people what your political affiliation is. Oh my God, now I have to talk about it because you're curious. Okay. So as a kid, I grew up in Canada. I loved Ronald Reagan. I still remember that speech he gave. And Ronald Reagan's a Republican, of course, where he said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. This is a piece of the Berlin Wall. And so I love Ronald Reagan. And I came to the States partially because of that. I loved everything he stood for. And he's a Republican. And then finally I get here and I can vote. And I couldn't vote Republican in my first election. I just couldn't. And the next election, I didn't either. But if we have a good Republican candidate, I will vote for that one probably, because I think taxes are getting too high. Doesn't mean I agree with everything Republicans say. But for me, I jump back and forth depending on who the candidate is always. I'm more of a libertarian. Okay, but guys, don't ever put, don't do what I just did there. Like don't ever discuss politics or put whatever politician you like on your LinkedIn profile. Don't follow politicians on Twitter or LinkedIn because half the people won't like you. I don't know what half. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up. All right, give me 1 second, guys. Hold on a second. Okay. Next up, but Norm, in terms of Canadian politics, I got to go there. One thing I wish we had in Canada is term limits. And that's like what the United States did. The United States has a lot of problems, tons. But the United States, when the US was founded hundreds of years ago, they basically took the greatest hits of what worked in Europe and kind of created their own political system here. The problem with the parliamentary system, part of Canada, is that you can be prime minister forever. I think there should be term limits. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, Pierre Trudeau was president for like 8 million years. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, my mentor, thank you for everything. You're most welcome. If you had a time machine, what would you do and why? Just curious. Thanks for everything. I'll see you until eternity. Thank you. God, I'd probably go back in time and find a way to whack Hitler. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Sanjay wrote, and that's for a second. Secondly, I go back and I do exactly what. Okay. Bonus points to anybody who tells me what this is from. Okay. This is from a certain movie. Okay. Bonus points. And whoever gets this right gets one of my courses for free. So the first person to enter what movie this... Yes! Dan Sanchez, you the man. Yes, Dan, you nailed it. You nailed it. So Dan, what you can do is you can if I were to go back in time, that was fast, man. I'm impressed, brother. Awesome. So email support@harounventures.com, Dan, and then request whatever one of my courses you want to get for free, and I'll give it to you for free. And so just go to my website, and then you can click, I guess, check out my MBA degree programs and courses, and then pick, not an MBA program, but pick any course you want right here, and including bundles. And I just put up a couple of brand new bundles. And by the way, you can buy silver today, anybody today, but my next gold and platinum MBA program will start January 30, 2023. It's going to be every Monday and Tuesday for 1 year from 4 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. But I put up a couple of new bundles here, an investing bundle, advance your career bundle, and then a bunch of other courses here as well. Yeah. I'm impressed, man. You said it basically the second I showed the book. The second you saw the corner of the book, you said, Back to the Future Part 2. Yeah. Yeah. So if I can go back in time, one of the things I would do, it's fun to just talk about, is I would go and get this book. No, I'd have to go to the future. I'd have to go to the future to do that. Oh my God, I'm an old man. The older I get, the better I was. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But anyway, and they correctly predicted that the Chicago Cubs would win the World Series. Yeah. It's an oldie but a goodie. Okay. All right, next up, Sanjay wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Likewise. In order to create videos, which is better, Adobe or Final Cut Pro for a complete beginner? Yeah. If you have a Mac, without a doubt, Final Cut Pro. Yeah. Adobe's product is called Premiere Pro, which is hard to use, man. It's not that easy. It's kind of like Photoshop, which you got to use layers. It gets kind of complicated. Now, most movies that are made using Adobe Premiere Pro, but a lot of people use Final Cut. Like there's a Will Smith movie called Focus, which I thought was amazing, which was made with Final Cut Pro. Now, my first 20 or so Udemy courses, I created using iMovie. And so iMovie and Final Cut Pro are similar. Final Cut Pro, you have to pay for. It's $300, but you can get a 1-month free trial. Final Cut Pro is like iMovie on steroids. Yeah. Start with iMovie if you want, and then move on to the Final Cut Pro. Yeah, and I have a course that teaches that as well. Yeah, and I think I briefly covered that in my MBA program as well. But if you have Windows and not a Mac, then Premiere Pro is the only way to go. Yeah. So Orlina, how are you? Orlina is from Canada, or she's actually from Paris, but she lives in Canada, in Ontario. She has a crepe business that she's working on selling to a private equity firm. She's in my silver MBA program. I see her every week from 10 to 11 at my silver Zoom. She's got 2 cats named Mimi and Mumu. Adorable cats. And she got married. Congratulations again in Nova Scotia recently. Okay. So Zorlina wrote, good morning, Chris. Good morning too, sister. Thank you for offering the live course about calls inputs. You're most welcome. You're most welcome. And you're in silver, so you can actually get all the content for free by going to FA44. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Rita from Melbourne wrote, Chris, you're looking great today. The open white shirt on the blue totally suits you 110%. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. I was told, and I've done TV interviews before, never to have anything with patterns. And so if you look closely, there's a pattern here, which doesn't work well with TV screens and stuff, but whatever. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, bud. All right. Next up, we got Digital Edwin. And Edwin Encarnacion, who's Dylan, my son's favorite baseball player, was in Toronto 2 weeks ago to throw the opening pitch for the wild card game, which we lost. Broke my heart. I don't want to go there. Okay. But Digital Edwin wrote, hi all. I hope you're doing well. Following from Nairobi, Kenya, God blessings to you. God blessings to you as well. And I hope to meet you when I go to Kenya next summer to build this school. Yeah, I'll probably be there next July. Yeah, we're still working on it right now. Yeah. Okay. And a lot of the profits of what I do goes to building schools and stuff. As earlier wrote, my question today is, could you describe what a financial advisor typical day would be? Yeah. So in the finance industry, probably one of the best jobs you can possibly get is private wealth management, meaning manage money for wealthy people. And the reason I say that is because it's the only job function in all of finance where you can pick up and leave with all of your clients whenever you want to. Yeah. And so a lot of people, they make a lot of money by working at UBS for a couple of years doing PWM or private wealth management. And then they pick up and take their clients with them to Goldman Sachs or to their own shop, etc. So private wealth management, the way it works, a day in the life, is you're basically a salesperson. And most jobs in finance, over 80% of jobs in finance are in sales. But you're basically a salesperson trying to raise money and trying to get rich people to invest with you. And the way it works, the economics are such that in private wealth management, you get 1% of the value of whatever you manage every year. So if a rich dude that has $100 million gives it to you to manage your money, you get $1 million every year. It's 1%. And your goal is to, number one, preserve capital. That's why a lot of rich people like hedge funds. And by the way, hedge fund means in your backyard, you have a hedge that protects your backyard. So hedge funds protect capital. So number one, preserve capital. Number two, try to make sure that they pay as little as possible in taxes legally. And number three, generate positive returns. Yeah. And a lot of wealthy people, they have tax lawyers that they spend $700 an hour for. It's crazy, but people that are rich stay incredibly rich by paying very little in taxes. In fact, the 400 richest families in the United States, pay 23% tax, which is like half the tax rate or a little bit less than half the tax rate. Yeah. And the reason they do is because they hire these tax lawyers. And Warren Buffett pays less in tax percent-wise than his assistant does. And he said even publicly it's not fair. And the problem is this, and Jeff Bezos back in 2007, when he was already a billionaire many times over, in 2007, Jeff Bezos did not pay any taxes. In fact, he got $4,000 back for all four of his kids on his tax return as dependents. And the reason is because, if you're a billionaire and you don't have a taxable event, meaning you don't sell shares in your company that year, there's no taxes to pay. And I am a capitalist, but I think there should be a new tax or a new wealth tax placed on billionaires based on a percent of their liquid net worth every single year. Yeah. It doesn't seem fair. Okay. All right. All right. Next up, Electronics On-Site, who is Eduardo, who's in my MBA program that just started. The latest one started on Friday, September 30th for 1 year. Eduardo wrote, "Good day, Chris. Great to see you. Likewise, great to see you as well." You wrote, "What will be a good lab to start trading in options? I have a Roth IRA account with a major bank. Could I use that account to start trading in options? Please check with your accountant." I don't know the answer on that. Just please talk to your accountant first. I don't see why not, but talk to your accountant first. But please practice for 6 months first. And you can always fast forward to FA4 for it in the MBA curriculum to get access to all this stuff I just mentioned, the spreadsheets, etc., and much, much more. Yeah. Yeah. And since I think you're based in Texas, yeah, what I would do is I would download this application for free made by TD Ameritrade called Think or Swim. And Think or Swim, what you can do is you can set up a paper portfolio, pretend money, and trade options, just pretend money, for at least 6 months first, just to try it out. Yeah. Okay. All right, Harsh. Hey, Harsh, man, it's been a while. Good to see you. Harsh wrote here, you said you need something in common if you want to network with them. What do you do if we don't have anything in common with them. Yeah, before meeting. So before any meeting that you have with people in business, what I want you to do for the first time is I want you to go to their Twitter profile to see who they follow, or their LinkedIn profile to see who they follow. Because I'm sure there's something that you can find interesting to talk about based on who they follow. You know, it might be, I don't know, an athlete, plays cricket, baseball, whatever, for a team that you're excited about as well. You can talk about that. If you have nothing in common with them, then just make sure to set up Google Alerts for that company that you're interviewing with, so you can find out in real time any sort of news updates on that company. And read the newspaper, obviously, that morning. Just be up to date on current events so you can kind of chit chat about, you know, stuff that's happening in the world. And never jump into business in your first meeting, man. You want to bond before business because, you know, relationships are more important than product knowledge, and your network is your net worth. So you want to bond with them. You'll never get that second chance to make that first impression. That's a cheesy quote from a Head and Shoulders commercial from the 80s, but it's so true. Yeah. Bond before business. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh my God, Peyton, how are you? Peyton Callaway, I miss you, brother. Peyton wrote, one of my favorite humans on the whole planet. I love you, man, and I miss you, and I hope you're doing well. So Peyton Callaway owns a company called The Game Report. It's gamereport.io, which he's changing up now, the strategy of it. I went to your website recently. It's cool. And he graduated last year from my MBA Program. He used to work in surface warfare. It's kind of a cool thing to say in the United States Navy. And now he works at an amazing video game company here in Northern California. He's from Hawaii originally, lived in San Diego when he worked for the Navy, and now he lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with his wife and kids. It is so great to see you, man. It is awesome to see you. And I interviewed Peyton on one of my webcasts, my weekly webcast. I think it was about a year ago or something. So go back and watch that, guys, because he knows everything about NFTs, Web 3.0, all that stuff, cryptos. He runs circles around it. Yeah, it's great to see you. I love you. I hope that you, Hannah, and the kids are doing well. Yeah, good to see you. Okay. Next up, Wade's World wrote, Chris, with the recent market volatility, I've been taking profits much sooner. Sometimes the stock runs farther. Yeah, volatility's picked up a lot. We saw that from the options example I showed you with Coca-Cola. The implied volatility is higher than the historical volatility. And I could talk about that in more detail if you guys care about that. Okay, so volatility is up. And then you wrote, sometimes stocks run up farther. I was encouraged to hold and immediately lost. Why not take profit when the market is volatile? Yeah. So I really do believe that every year your returns in your portfolio come from 1, 2, or 3 core investments that you're a long-term holder on. That being said, if stocks are so volatile that your target price is hit, there's no shame in taking some chips off the table. I prefer to do it in stocks that I've held for more than 1 year because you pay less in capital gains taxes. If they're in your retirement savings program, you don't have to worry about that for obvious reasons, though. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with trading around a position a bit, but don't try to day trade your way to making a fortune, because you'll get fooled by randomness. Because every month has 20 weekdays, meaning 20 days the market's open. Yeah, and stocks go up and down for reasons outside of our control in the near term. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Alex wrote, would you be able to do puts and calls for LendingClub LC? Yeah, I think so. I remember that I met with the CEO of that company once at Plug and Play Tech Center's headquarters. Let me go there. Let's see here. Probably LendingClub LC. I would think yes. $1 billion market cap, volumes. Yeah, almost definitely. Yeah. Let's go here. Yeah, absolutely. And the way you know is if there's data on this screen here. You can, yeah. But it's not as liquid as Coca-Cola because it has a market cap of only $1 billion, similar to SunPower, that question asked by Julia earlier. And that's why you can only get options for a certain limited number of dates. And that's why there are not that many. Actually, there's a lot of strike prices here. Yeah. But there's a limited number of dates because it's just not as liquid. Yeah. Oh, and always look at liquidity too. Right. So some of these things, the volume is like 1. Like, careful on stuff like this. It's so hard to buy and sell these things. Yeah. And the difference between the bid and the ask spread is pretty wide. Yeah. That's why I want you guys to practice first for many, many months. Okay. All right. Next up, Eric. Hey, Eric, how are you, man? Eric's in my silver MBA program. I think Eric wrote, how will the internet change with California Consumer Privacy Act since no one can collect data and install cookies? Yeah. So a lot of companies have seen their market caps get whacked because of what Apple has done. What Apple has done is they've kind of blocked certain cookies and privacy stuff on these things. And so that's really negatively impacted companies like Snapchat, Facebook, etc. And even the way that I advertise as well a little bit. Although I still am using Facebook, hasn't impacted me that much. Yeah. But if there's gonna if the state of California said cookies are illegal, I don't know how they'd be able to, and they wouldn't do that. I don't know how they'd be able to enforce that. Maybe by IP address. I just don't know. Yeah. I don't think it would go through. Okay. Patricia, how are you? You warm my heart. Great to see you. Patricia is in my my MBA degree program, started in January, I think. Yeah, the J-term, January program, and she's from New Hampshire, and she has an e-bike just like I do as well. Yeah, great to see you. Okay, next up. Oh my God, Scatter, how are you? It's Simon, right? Scatter, I haven't seen you in like 8 months or so, brother. You wrote, hey Chris, I'm almost ready to launch the fund. Meaning the venture capital and arbitration hybrid fund that we talked about. Remember that? I've been working on some AI stuff with Jordan Kostrinsky, setting up virtual influencer tech. Very cool. Very cool. And Simon is an expert when it comes to Web 3.0 as well. He wrote, and then you wrote here, I wanted to touch base and ask about your Metaverse plans. Are you still planning to do Metaverse thing? I am. Yeah. And for those you curious about what the Metaverse thing might look like in my MBA program, you can go to mbametaverse.com. Now, my intention is for all 100 classes in my MBA program to add a case study in the Metaverse. It's going a little bit slower than expected, partially because I can't seem to get any sort of platform to work where you don't get dizzy. And I know it's a weird thing to say, but if you look at Facebook, like the whole virtual reality space is so overhyped. And Facebook spent $10 billion this year and $5 billion last year, $15 billion in total in Metaverse R&D, and they have nothing to show for it. Their latest Oculus product, the pricing point is way too high. It's like $1,500, and they're going after the enterprise market and corporations and less so consumers. And Facebook signed a $22 billion deal with the United States government, the military actually. And what they did was that $22 billion deal was to use Oculus for training. And 80% of all the people in the United States Army that used that product got really, really sick, like motion sickness. And so the entire industry is I think is going to be at a standstill for a while, because when anybody uses these VR products, you get motion sickness. I can't do it for more than half an hour. You know, the Oculus is a product I have. It's over here. I have it, but it's kind of thing where I get it, I play it for 24 to 48 hours, and I put it in a drawer. There's no killer app yet. People get dizzy. Now, Apple is coming out, according to their patents, which you can see disclosed online. Apple is coming out with their first AR product, which is going to be released likely in January. And the next one will be released in 2024. And I think if anybody can pull it off, it's Apple. But as of now, most of these products have been horrific failures. Microsoft's product HoloLens, it's $3,500. Like, it's basically focused at enterprises only, or government agencies. And Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft, he didn't show up for the HoloLens latest release party or press event, but he did show up for Mark Zuckerberg's latest Oculus event. So it's kind of a signal that maybe Microsoft is backing off as well. And Microsoft's trying to be more open source, whatever, or less of a closed-based operating system company. Yeah. I will get there, dude. I will get there. It's going to take me a little bit longer than expected. I want the customer experience to be amazing. And when it comes to Oculus headsets, for example, there's only 15 million of them that have been sold compared to the billions of people that are on the internet right now. Yeah. It's good to see you, man. Okay, next up, Eric wrote, buzz is that Europe is going to have to shut down the mobile phone system and computer systems due to lack of electricity. Yeah, and I saw that too. There might be brownouts in the United Kingdom if demand for electricity stays constant or rises even a little bit between now and the winter months. Yeah, we live in interesting times. Yeah. And a lot of my students in South Africa and different countries all over the world, they're used to having blackouts in certain parts of the day, especially in Nigeria. I have Adeposi, one of my favorite students. He usually goes dark at a certain time of the day when we're doing calls together. Yeah. Then you wrote, how to maximize profits living in a hurricane damaged zone. Buy business or properties. Yeah, I still think real estate is a great long-term investment. The problem with real estate is that the 30-year treasury values have gone up materially, more than double this year. A 30-year fixed mortgage is around 7% now. I think it's only a matter of time till it's above 10%. I think the government is going to try to force unemployment to reach mid to high single digits in order to control inflation, unfortunately. And that's why I think that we're definitely going to recession. Yeah, winter is coming. It's here. Yeah. Okay. But in terms of real estate in general, I always love to buy the crappiest house in the nicest neighborhood instead of the nicest house in the crappiest neighborhood. Yeah. Okay. And I remember I bought my first apartment right after, I think it was just after 9/11 in New York City. And it felt so uncomfortable doing it. And if it doesn't feel uncomfortable, then you're not buying at the right time. Yeah. You got to be, as Warren Buffett said, greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. Yeah, just be a contrarian. Yeah. Julie wrote, hey, Chris, it has been a billion years. It's great to see you. You wrote, I'm a dinosaur. No. You wrote, can you check the options on SunPower again? It looked like you were under SPTN. Oh, did I make that mistake? Okay, let me see here. Okay. SPWR. SunPower. Okay. I'm going to click that. Oh, you see how I hate you spell correct. You see that? I hate that. It corrected it. Watch this. Wait a second. It corrected it. Okay. SunPower. It should have options. 2.7. Oh, yeah. It's even bigger than the other one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It does. It does. Plenty of options. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for noticing that. Yeah. I'm sure Wall Street traders have gotten burned by that. Yeah. Okay. And on Wall Street, as you know, Julie used to work at Goldman as well. If you have a fat finger and you put an extra zero in a trade and you lose a fortune for the firm, you get fired. But if you accidentally make a fortune for the firm, you make managing director and no one ever finds out about it. Okay. Thank God I wasn't transacting in real money there though, eh? Okay, give me a second here. Okay, 1 second, guys. Okay. All right. 1 second, guys. I lost my spot. I just searched for SPWR. I found it. Good. Okay. Next up, Ryan wrote, hey, Chris, is it hardware or software companies that go HP to die, and is that still the case? I mentioned that ages ago. I remember on a webcast or a vlog. Yeah. So when I used to be in the hedge fund sector, investing in software and internet stocks, Hewlett Packard at that point in time was the 5th biggest software company in the world, and we used to joke that HP is where software companies go to die, because they would buy these great companies like this Israeli company called Mercury Interactive, a great testing software company. Ticker was MERQ, and then they just basically killed it. Yeah. Very poorly run company, which is why it ultimately broke up into 2 companies. Yeah. All right. And that's less likely the case now because the company is split up. Yeah. And it better managed slightly. Okay. All right. Next up, Eric wrote, where do you find an expert on filling out FEMA claim forms and other Fed forms? Yeah. If it has anything to do with legal stuff, go to LegalZoom.com and sign up there. You can get, I think it's $15 or $20 per month for a 6-month contract. You can talk to any lawyer you want for personal matters, and it's more expensive for business matters. I use them a lot. They're great. Yeah. Okay. Michelle, hey, Michelle, how are you? And thanks for joining my channel there. I see the trophy icon. You wrote, live free or die. Death is not the greatest of evils. And that's General John Stark, for New Hampshire. Oh, there's two parts to that. Live free or die. And the second part, I didn't realize there's a second part to that quote, which is death is not the greatest of evils. Yeah, especially if you die for a good cause. Yeah. Next up, Ahmed wrote, hey, Chris, hey, I started studying your cryptocurrency course, and I have a question about taxing. I'm not an American, and I don't live in the U.S. So do I still pay taxes? Yeah. It all depends on what country you're in, but just assume that if you make money on something and it's a realized profit, meaning you sold and made a profit, you will be paying taxes in your country. But please talk to your accountant first. Yeah. Okay, moving on to Eric, who wrote, how do you maximize this intelligence? Home sales are down 20% since a year ago. New starts are down 8% in the same period. Yeah. So, okay, so there's two different markets. There's primary and secondary market. The primary market is when you list a new product, right? And so the primary market means when you build brand new houses. So the amount of brand new houses that are being built by companies like Lennar, ticker LEN, and KBH Homes, ticker KBH, the number of houses being built by those companies and companies like them is down 8% year over year. The percent of houses being sold by owners is down 27%. Yeah. And the reason both those statistics are down year over year is because financing has increased. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate has more than doubled this year, which destroys primary and secondary housing markets. Yeah. And all other asset classes. Okay, next up, Conrad wrote, do you have any tricks for choosing the name of a company? Yeah. Whatever you choose, try to, if you're not sure, use your name if you are the brand. But whatever you choose, try to think overseas. Like, what does that word mean? For example, in Canada, where I'm from, there's a shampoo I used growing up in Norm Macdonald, you might remember this one, called Pert. Okay, and Pert is a shampoo we used growing up. But when you translate Pert into French, and a large percentage of the country in Canada is French, Pert means perdre, which is lose. So you don't want to buy a loser shampoo. So they renamed it, instead of P-E-R-T, in French they called it P-R-E-T, prêt, which means ready. So make sure to understand overseas what your brand name means, and make sure from a color perspective as well that you don't have colors that are insulting or seen as negative colors in certain countries. And you can do plenty of Google searches to find out more details than that. Yeah. Okay. And even there's a lot of companies, even Kentucky Fried Chicken, they didn't translate their marketing campaign properly. And so many years ago, they had that campaign, which was like finger licking good, KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. And they translated that into Mandarin, and it translated to eat your fingers off. Like literally. Yeah. Another thing you have to do is make sure that you register the trademark for your brand as well. You can go to uspto.gov, that's US Patent and Trademark Office.gov, uspto.gov, and do a search to see if that brand name exists. And if it doesn't, maybe go to LegalZoom.com and talk to a lawyer to register that brand name, which is what I did with a lot of my brands. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Yassine wrote, are there any angel investors you could recommend in the UAE? I'm so sorry, I can't. Yeah, I don't recommend, sorry. But I can help you if you're in the silver program or the platinum program. If you want, we can talk. I'm happy to humbly help you network. Or you can just go to my website, harounmba.com, and download my networking book for free, which will help you a lot when it comes to networking. Okay. Next up, Eric wrote, do you have any suggestions on how to build a lithium battery gigafactory in Florida? Start with a politician or someone else. I don't know. If it's, you might be able to get tax breaks, and I would probably call your congressperson in your district if you're based in Florida. I thought you were in Tennessee, but if you're in Florida, you might want to talk to your congressperson and ask them if you can get some sort of tax break. And when you call your congressperson, the congressperson won't answer. It'll be somebody else that works with them. Yeah. And I did that years ago here, and I had my congressman, it was a guy named Mike Honda. I had him over for dinner here. Great guy. But in order to get in contact with him, I had to go first through one of his subordinates. Yeah. but they're there to serve you because you elected them. Yeah. By the people and for the people. Okay. Next up, Yassine wrote, is your free networking guide the same networking advice you give in your silver MBA? No. No, I go into a heck of a lot more detail in my silver MBA program. Yeah. All right. Next up, Roberto wrote, what do you think will be the next big industry? Yeah. Oof. Well, there's two major markets that haven't really been massively disrupted, that where there's too much government regulation, where I see deregulation coming, and those markets are financial services and healthcare. So I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there. Yeah, but you can also think about, as Mark Andreessen, great venture capitalist, said, software is eating the world, and think about which sectors have not been disrupted or disintermediated by software yet. Like Uber disrupted the taxi market. What sectors have not been disrupted yet by software? Okay, next up, Derege. And if I mispronounce anybody's name, please let me know. I don't want to insult anybody. So DD wrote, hi, Chris. I have a plan to establish an NGO, oh, nice, which is focused on education and health in Ethiopia. Beautiful. Would you please help me? From where can I start the process? I know you have projects in Africa too. Yeah. So what I recommend you do is reach out to Vital, and I'll show you how to get in contact with him. So Vital was one of my MBA students, graduated a couple of years ago. Let me go to LinkedIn, and I'll show you his profile. Reach out to him and ask him. He'll be more than happy to help you out. Okay, so let's go here to Vital. There we go. So reach out to Vital. Okay, I'll leave this up for a couple seconds, and then you can ask him. Yeah, he's got my favorite quote in the world right here too, by Mark Twain. The two most important days in your life are number one, the day you're born, and number two, the day you find out why. Yeah, but reach out to Vital. I'll leave this up for a couple seconds for you. He'll help you out. So he helped me out with Rwanda, of course. He's a rock star to me. He's my buddy. Okay, and Wade, you're most welcome. Okay, moving on to Abel, who wrote, hey, Chris, hope all is well, likewise. What do you think about the Tigray genocide that's happening in Ethiopia? I don't know anything about that. I'm so sorry. If you want, please tell us more about it and what we can do to donate and help. When I was in Rwanda last summer, or summer 2021, with Vital, he took me to the Genocide Museum, and I went there. My son was with me, and I bought this there and made obviously a massive donation as well. It broke my heart what happened there. And history does repeat itself. It's really sad. Yeah. Yeah. Please tell us more about that, because I want to learn as well and support that. Yeah. And Vital, you all know what happened with the Rwandan genocide. His father was one race, his mom was another, and his father's no longer with us. But I got to meet his mother, grandmother, and we said prayers together at her house. It was a beautiful thing, and she's a prayer warrior, to quote Vital. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Simon wrote, the dizziness with VR is caused by the refresh rate on both eyes being equal when it should be unequal. However, access to the metaverse via direct VR is already failed. The 100x metaverse of the future will be the browser-based. This is tested 20 years by Second Life. Yeah. And Second Life, that's a software product you showed me where we download. Yeah. It just seems like everything Zuckerberg has done so far has been a failed experiment. Yeah. $15 billion. Yeah. But yeah, I think what's going to happen with I think people are going to start to think about the metaverse as kind of like having a second screen. So we'll wear these AR-based glasses that look like Google Glass. Remember Google Glass holes? You used to walk around with those things everywhere. Terrible. But with Google Glass, for example, where you'll have just a second monitor, it'll just kind of like traders do on Wall Street. They have a couple of monitors. And when you need to access that monitor, maybe it's a browser, you look at it every now and then, but you don't get dizzy because you're not always staring at it. So I think that's going to be the first real success story within AR. It's just, hey, a second monitor up there. Yeah. And when I ride my bike, my e-bike as well, I would love to have glasses so that, sunglasses, but also I can look up to see a second monitor, which is people behind me. Yeah. Yeah. Camera based, of course, on the back of my bike. Okay, Vishnu wrote, hey, Chris, is there any option trading course of yours on Udemy? Yeah, there's one there as well. Yeah, you can check it out. Okay. And then Christina wrote, oh, Christina, how are you? So Christina is the president of the Haroun Education Ventures MBA degree alumni network. And she was just in Barcelona. And she actually held an alumni event there for a lot of people currently in the Haroun MBA program and graduates of the MBA program. Yeah, including Paul Brow and many others. Yeah, excellent. Well, it's good to see you, Christina. Good to see you. Hold on a second. You wrote, good morning, Chris, and our amazing global, miss you, global MBA and Webcast family. Hope you're having an outstanding week so far. I'm back from our whirlwind trip, and she also went to Greece and went to Santorini, where one of her best friends got married. And then you wrote, cheers, Chris. I'm at 10 a.m. water and only 400 steps. How about you? So for me, for steps, it's probably brutal, eh? Okay, so for my steps, and I have been getting over 20,000 a day lately. I've actually been doing good. I don't have a Molson Muscle or a 1-pack anymore. I've got, maybe it's a 2-pack. I'm trying to get to a 6-pack, yeah. In terms of my steps, I'm at 278. In terms of my water, I'm at only 8 a.m. I should be at 9:30 by now, yeah. It's great to see. I saw your email this morning. I'm looking forward to our alumni call today. I had to make it 40 minutes, though, because I am talking to Marin for the last 20 minutes regarding the school we're building in Kenya. And I hope she joins us for the entire call as well. But yes, I'm looking forward to our alumni call today, and thank you for setting that up. Yeah. Okay. It's great to see you. Shashar wrote, your options course is really great. The Excel section alone is worth it. Thank you. You're most welcome. I had so much fun making it. And it was kind of like, when you finish a really good book and at the end, you're proud of yourself. It's done. You put it on your shelf, but you kind of feel sad. That's how I felt after I finished that. I had a blast making it. Yeah. Moving on to Rubina, who's from Pakistan. And she's in my MBA degree program. And she now lives in the United Kingdom. Wrote, hi, Chris. I hope and pray you and your family are well. How's your son? He came home sick yesterday. Yeah, my oldest son, Andrew, and this is then years ago. We all look becoming in blue. Just kidding. My oldest son, Andrew, he's at Berkeley. He's sick. And thanks for asking. Yeah. So my wife, Christine, went to go pick him up at like 5:30 in the morning yesterday. She gets up early. And he's now upstairs at home. I spent a lot of time with him in his room, and we're getting even closer now. Yeah, I had a mask on when we were talking. It's not COVID, but he's okay. Thanks. Yeah, it's so good to have him home, though. Yeah. Thank you. He's getting better. Yeah. Thank you. And I pray for you and your family, everybody as well. Thank you. Okay, next up, we got a junior who wrote, hey, Chris, where can I find the MBA program? Yeah, so all you do is... you go to my website, which is harounmba.com. And then when you're here, there's a big blue button. Check out my MBA degree program and courses. And then you'll see them here. And so you can buy silver and start silver today if you want to. And then if you want, you can upgrade and you get a big discount as well to my next program, my next gold and platinum program, which starts January 30th. But you can start silver today, and there's a 30-day 100% money back guarantee. So you can binge watch the whole thing in 29 days and get your money back. My marketing team hates it when I say that. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for asking. All right. Rubina wrote, did you hear about, yeah, I did, about the UK PM resigned. What is the future of the UK? I hate to learn more bad news. Yeah, it's rough. Her fiscal policies failed, crashed and burned quickly. What she wanted to do, and there's a crisis of confidence when it came to her as well, what she wanted to do was to prop up the UK economy by using $10 billion of government money to buy back, underwater pension funds or to invest in underwater pension funds. And then she only did $1 billion worth. And then she stopped, and the whole market was like, oh my God, is the UK government out of money? What's going on? And she lost confidence. People lost confidence in her. Also, she wasn't elected by the popular vote at all. And there was a poll after she was put into power, after Boris was unfairly, in my humble opinion, taken out. And only 0.7% of people approved of her. Yeah. So I think it's the right call, though. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Eduardo wrote, "Hey Chris, is there a U.S. nationwide accounting service company you recommend? I don't have an account." Yeah. So you can use H&R Block, which is what I used years ago before I found a good accountant. But there's no Yelp for accountants out there, and I don't recommend anybody out there. I don't recommend anybody do your own taxes, please. Doing your own taxes is like doing surgery on yourself. The reason accountants exist is because the tax code changes all the time, and they can keep you out of trouble and get you a lot of write-offs too, hopefully. The best way to find an accountant is talk to your rich or successful aunts or uncles or friends and ask them, who's your accountant, and can you please introduce me? Yeah, that's the best way. But I did use H&R Block for a while at first, yeah. But that should be kind of a last resort. Yeah, try to find a good accountant by talking to your buddies. And you're doing them a favor, too, if they introduce you to their accountant, because their accountant can be like, cool, man, more business. I'll do a better job for them. I don't recommend, whatever country people are based in, I don't recommend trying to find an accountant a month before taxes. Do it well in advance. Yeah. All right, next up, Alex P. wrote, in the current state of the world, what top 5 countries will you consider the most tax-friendly in the world? Oh, God, it's hard for me. I set up an offshore bank for my hedge fund years ago in the British Virgin Islands, BVI. And so there's good tax incentives there. I didn't use Cayman Islands because Cayman's more expensive, but you can look at Cayman, you can look at BVI. You want to talk to a tax accountant first about this because every country is different in terms of where you can invest offshore, etc. If you're in the United Kingdom, there's this tiny island called Sark you can look into. But I would talk to your accountant first. Yeah, I'm not an expert in that area. That's why the whole tax lawyer market exists. And I have a tax lawyer. He's great. He charges me $1 gazillion an hour. And so every time I talk to him, he starts off by saying, hey, man, how are you? I'm like, shut the hell up. Talk faster. Yeah. I don't say that, but I think that. Yeah. And he's worth every penny. Yeah. And if you guys are curious about my tax lawyer, I use a firm in San Francisco called Tax Ninja. Very expensive, but incredible. Yeah. And a badass name, too. Okay. All right. Next up, Eric wrote, and give me 1 second here, guys. Eric wrote, how will China respond to the United States cutting off the chips? I can't imagine China without manufacturing electronics. So China will have definitely, a vibrant electronics market. It's just for geopolitical reasons. The United States government doesn't want, China to use a lot of our technology, especially if it's in, defense-based national security projects. So big companies like Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA, they've been kind of told gently, hey, you can kind of stay in China for another year, but wind down those operations, please. Yeah. But what's a bigger deal, though, is Taiwan Semi. What's happening in China is unprecedented. You have a political leader that's kind of staying another 5 years. And he talked about his new 5-year plan the other day, talking about how Hong Kong has already been assimilated. And he implied that Taiwan is next, which, God forbid, I hope that doesn't happen. Yeah. And so what Taiwan Semiconductor is doing, which is the largest chip company in the world, is they're starting to now open factories in Japan, which is unheard of for them, just to diversify. Yeah. Okay. But I'm sure that China has their own manufacturing, their own semiconductor IP, or they're using different countries. Yeah. Next up, Charlie wrote, going long on a put, please provide a few reasons why. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So let's say you own Coca-Cola stock, ticker KO. Okay. And you don't want to sell the stock because you made a fortune on it in a short amount of time. And you want to pay less in taxes and you haven't held it for more than a year. Now, in most countries, if you own a stock for more than a year and you sell it then, you pay less in taxes. It's called less capital gains tax. So what you can do is you can protect it by buying an insurance contract called a put, which is a small amount of money you'll pay to protect your Coca-Cola investment in case Coke goes down. So if Coke goes down, the put will go up in value, which will offset your losses. You could also own a put if let's say that let's say you think a company is overvalued and you think that they're going to report earnings which are going to be awful. Instead of going short the stock, which basically is a way to borrow shares and bet the stock is going to go down, you can buy a put. And the reason you might want to buy a put instead of shorting a stock is because shorting a stock, your losses are unlimited if the stock goes up. But with a put, if the stock goes up, all you lose is the amount of money you put into the put. But if stock goes to zero, you can make a lot. Yeah. So in the example I showed you with Coca-Cola, we earlier today, and you can go back to the beginning of this webcast, we priced a put on Coke for $268. And if Coca-Cola stock went down from 55 and change today to zero tomorrow, which wouldn't happen, from that $268 investment, you'd make $4,700 or so. Yeah. But it expires, right? There's only a certain amount of time. It's in focus now. There we go. The expiration date there, you can see. It expires in a certain amount of time. And so that's called alpha decay. Yeah. It's called theta decay. Theta means time. Yeah. And there's lots of Greek formulas we can analyze and talk about if you want to when it comes to analyzing options. Oof, made a mistake there. All right. Next up, Eric wrote, can VR replace a monitor? I could not read the text last time I tried. Yeah. I mean, I think it can. I've tried VR goggles. I can read stuff on them. But when I'm talking about using it as a monitor, I'm thinking of AR, meaning they're looks like real glasses, but Google Glass kind of, where you can kind of see a monitor, and you can read information on the monitor. And if you only read a little bit every now and then, you're not going to get sick. If people use these things for more than 30 minutes, they get sick. Like I mentioned, the United States military spent $22 billion buying these things from Facebook, and 80% of people in the military that use these things got really, really sick. Yeah. But they use them for more than half an hour each. Yeah. Okay. And then Eric, you know what I'm going to do, guys? I'm going to open up. Do we have time for Zoom? Let me see here. We might have a couple of minutes for Zoom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Zoom here, and I'm going to show you guys how to get access to Zoom if you want to join us for Zoom. Okay, so go to harounmba.com/Zoom, and then you can click that link to join me. Yeah, screw it, let's do it. I'm going to open up Zoom right now in case you guys want to join. Give me 1 second. You can ask your questions over Zoomy if you want. Launch meeting. Here we go. And as I wait for you guys to join, if you want to, we only have about 15 minutes left. Oh, we got Nacho here too. Awesome. As you guys, I'll start accepting you guys. And then I can take a couple questions that way. So again, go to harounmba.com/Zoom. And then you can join. So let me get through a couple more questions here quickly, and I'll go over to Zoom. All right. And then Eric wrote, I have a six-pack. It's just under the keg. That's much better than my molson muscle. Yeah. Pardon me. All right. We got Glenn Rich. First time seeing you on the call. Welcome. I hope you join us again. Who wrote, Chris, what do you make of trust and guilt in context of what's happening in U.S. equity market? Yeah. Trust. Yeah. So I think what you're referring to is with respect to government officials investing in stocks. Yeah. It was ridiculous, but Dr. Anthony Fauci and a bunch of other U.S. Government officials sold a lot of mutual funds and stocks and ETFs ahead of the COVID crisis before it got a lot worse. And there's speculation that hey man, that's not fair. They knew about stuff before the rest of us did. They should not be able to transact on this. And there's thousands of other Congress people, whatever government officials, I should say, that have invested in stocks, maybe based on information that they knew ahead of the market. I think it should become a law that if you're a U.S. government official, like a congressperson, for example, you can only buy certain ETFs, like the VU or SPY. Yeah. It's really unfair what's happened. Yeah, it really is insider information, and there will be prosecutions for sure. Yeah. Okay. And then Eric wrote, "Can you do? Do you have an opinion on mini futures?" Yeah, not a strong one. Sorry. Okay, next up, Alexander wrote, "Hey Chris, good morning. I just started your MBA. Thank you very much, and thank you so much for signing up for my for joining my YouTube channel as well. For 99 cents, you get 5 courses, and I think you can sign up for the MBA now for $99 a month over YouTube if you click join there. Thank you." And then he wrote, "I'm sure it will be amazing for my current career in the sales area and in the financial area, as I intend to professionalize myself to manage and advise people and companies in these areas." Awesome. Excellent. And along the way, if you have questions, please let me know. If you're in the Gold or Platinum program, you can ask me during class, during Zoom as well. If you're in the Silver program, starting at 10 a.m. today and every Thursday for 1 hour, I have a call just for Silver MBA students. You can go to the first lecture in the curriculum to find out more details. Yeah. And thank you for your support. I do appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Next up, Rubina wrote, "Chris, how can we reach Vital? I sent him an invitation to connect a long time ago. He did not respond." In the LinkedIn message, send him a LinkedIn email, and in the subject line, just write "friend of Chris." Yeah. Then he won't respond for sure. No, he'll respond. Okay, next up, Stephen wrote, "With the value of the U.S. dollar rising so highly, why isn't our domestic market following suit?" Yeah, it gets, okay, so it's tough because when the U.S. dollar goes up a lot, then big U.S. companies that make money overseas, when they bring back their profits, it's a lot lower, right? So that hurts earnings, and that hurts stocks as well that are exposed overseas. So Coca-Cola, for example, which generates most of its revenue and earnings overseas, when they bring back that money to the United States, it's less because the profits are less overseas when you convert it to dollars. Yeah. Okay. And then Rubina wrote, "So glad, pardon me, so glad to hear your son is getting better." Thank you. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. And you wrote, "Thank you for praying for me and my family too. I appreciate it very much." Amen. Of course. Yeah. All right. Let me go over to Zoom, see if there are people that want to join Zoom. Okay. We got a couple people. Okay, good. I'm going to let everybody in. And then if you guys have a question on Zoom, please raise your hand. You can either physically raise your hand or in the bottom right-hand corner, you can click on reactions, and then you click on raise hand here, like that. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go first to Mark. Mark, are you there?
Yes, sir. How you doing, brother?
I'm always great. It's great to see you, man. And for those of you not familiar with with Mark, he goes by Satones. He's a graduate from my MBA program from last year. And his startup is how to mine raw materials and rare minerals on asteroids. And he's making progress as well. Mark, tell us a little bit about your company as I clear my throat here. Thanks.
Our company started in 2019. We're based out of Detroit, Michigan. We have about a team of 2 to 3 engineers working with us right now, and we're designing the actual mining equipment right now to actually go on the spaceship, and we're in negotiations right now with launch service providers. Launch service provider is someone who actually connects you to the actual spaceship companies such as SpaceX, Relativity Space, and those different companies. And so that's what we're doing right now for financial projections. So as soon as the financial projections are set, we'll know what it takes to launch straight to space. Basically, we just need to know how much the equipment weighs that we're going to make to mine back, and we're figuring out a way to get the asteroid and the equipment back by docking on the International Space Station.
It's amazing. It's amazing you're doing this, and it's incredible. And Mark has shared some of his business model with me. And I won't tell you guys the proprietary stuff, but basically, it's a suitcase this big, and it's all robotic based. There's no human intervention needed. And basically, he'll launch it from satellites to go to asteroids to mine. Like it's happening. It's fascinating. It's amazing. I know you've been talking about it for I guess about 2 years now, and it's happening, man. I'm proud of you. It's
yes,
awesome. Yeah.
God sent to you, and God bless you. Thanks to you being an awesome coach for helping me get this far and achieving it to this level and going beyond further. I had a question I wanted to talk about that possibly may help everybody on the call. Can you talk about mindset in the law of attraction? Because a lot of people we start worrying about bills, and we start worrying about just a tremendous amount of things when it comes to finances and things of that nature. And we don't think big enough. And the bigger problems, if we solve those problems of the world, it takes care of the little problems. Can you talk about the mindset that it takes to be successful?
Yeah. So I would say when you start a company, it can't be about money. You know, it has to be about putting your dent in the universe and really serving others and helping other people. If you think with your heart first, and you don't give a damn what other people think of you from a mindset perspective, and you fail over and over and over again, eventually you will be successful. And you only have to be successful in business or correct in business one time. But if you convince yourself, if it's sincerely true, that you are really helping other people, with what you're doing, it makes it more palpable, and you have the stamina to stick out for the entire marathon. So for me, there's a big pain point, and I have this war against traditional educational institutions. They're elitist, only allow people in if their parents are rich or their parents went to those schools. It's not fair, and so for me, it's kind of like this. I'm dedicating the rest of my life to provide affordable education to anybody that needs it globally, because I really do believe, like Nelson Mandela said, that education is the most powerful weapon that you can use to fix the world. And as Malala said, and this really resonates with me, and she's one of my heroes, she said, with guns you can kill terrorists, with education you can kill terrorism. And so I really do believe that all problems in the world can and will be solved by education. And I'm trying to do my part to make that a reality.
And you are, brother. And I'm right here to represent that part of it, of your educational program that you're teaching.
I appreciate it. It's so good to see you, buddy. And I want you to meet, we got Nacho, Gary, and Eric. Gary is hey, guys. Hey, Nacho, congratulations on the game last night. Did you go?
No, I was not there, but I saw it.
You beat the Yankees. It was awesome. Yeah. What a great game. And Justin what's his last name? Verlander, that's right. He was 18-4 this year with a 1.75 ERA, and he's 39. He's a Hall of Famer. His lowest ERA before this year was 2.4. The guy's amazing. He's unbelievable. Yeah, incredible. Yeah, so congratulations on that win versus the Yanks. Yeah, it's great to see you, man. Yeah. Great to see you.
Good to see you too, Chris.
Great to see you, brother. Cool. And we have Gary. So Gary's just like Nacho's also my Platinum MBA program. Gary is an investment banker, and he's had an incredible career. He's also worked in China as well. Gary, great to see you. How are you, man?
Oh, I'm doing well. Excellent. Yeah, I've worked in China and India.
Oh, cool.
Both.
Excellent. Well, it's good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
But this is great. It was something I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
And because a lot of the things that I will tell everybody, a lot of things that you're teaching, it took me years of going over to find out about it, then to study it, to learn it, and right now you're getting to everybody right now. Like these are the important things you really need to know, which is very, very important and stuff like that. One of the things I used to do is I used to analyze banks, and we utilized the model I could think of a value at risk model.
Oh, I remember VAR. I remember that.
VAR.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and I met some professors up in Canada that really worked on that and stuff like that. But it all involves option pricing and all that. So everybody's lucky.
Yeah. No.
Extremely lucky, right, Gary?
Yes,
you.
extremely lucky. Like I said
you.
before, this MBA programs that you're giving I call it an MBA through a fire hose. You're getting a fire hose, boom, and no theories, none of all that stuff. No, this is what you need to know. After you learn it, if you want to learn the theory, then learn the theory. But in reality, this is what you need to know now.
Thank you. I appreciate it. God bless you. Thank you so much for your support as well. And it's the wonderful thing about our program is that you learn more from each other than you do from me. We have an incredible network of thousands of students from all over the world, all walks of life. You guys inspire me so much, and thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, that's why I'm here, is because I'm learning. He said, "Oh yeah, you know all this stuff." Learning is a lifelong activity. Yeah. And then when you hear about other people and what they're doing, even the area of new technologies, cryptology, and in terms of AI, I'm picking up and I'm learning things. And then also the issue of relationships, meeting people, that are communicating. This is wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's great. No, I love our students. I'm so humbled by the number of people from all walks of life from all over the world that are part of the program, and y'all inspire me so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. God bless you guys. God bless you guys. Awesome, cool. Now,
God bless you too,
no, thank you. Now, if you guys have questions, please let me know. I'll go through a couple last questions, and if I don't get to your questions here, guys, on YouTube live, just copy your questions, ask me next week, or if you're in Silver, Gold, Platinum MBA program, you can ask during office hours. Let's go to Eric next. So I had his hand up. Eric, go ahead, please. And Eric, you gotta unmute yourself first. Sorry, I set it up, which is kind of dumb. I set it up so that it mutes everyone first.
Tap to speak. Tap to speak. Hello.
Yep, there you go. Oh, you're on your iPhone or something. Yeah. How are you?
Loving life, living a large, full of vim and vigor, ready to challenge this hurricane like you haven't seen before.
Awesome.
I think Elon Musk is a great guy. He just has done a few things wrong, and I know the solution to most of his problems. I talked with FEMA about it yesterday.
Okay.
They want to buy 20,000 units from me tomorrow, or actually yesterday.
Congratulations.
Nice, dude.
I need to get this thing up and running. I know it works because I have one and I've been using it for years. When I showed them what I have, they went, "Whoa!" And this is going to blow Musk away.
Nice, dude.
I love Elon, but I think he's made a few strategic errors.
Yeah, absolutely. He certainly doesn't have any friends in geopolitical circles for his comments on Ukraine and Russia recently. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. So Eric, you're based in Florida, right? And you're in my Silver MBA. I think I remember I did a call with you recently, right? Yeah.
Affirmative and yes.
Excellent. And I remember you're running my MBA on Linux. Is that still working, the Linux browser, or is it?
Yes, it is. And
okay.
No, I haven't because the hurricane has.
Right.
I haven't personally gotten hurt or injured, but I'm doing damage control for other people.
Yeah.
And trying to work with the feds to get this thing running.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. It's terrible. Is the hurricane? Is it over now, or are there still remnants?
There's going to be ultimately 3 disaster zones, hopefully, but right now there's only one disaster zone that covers the rich people, and the St. John,
Naples or something. Yeah.
The Fort Myers, Naples. The most expensive house in Florida was sold last year in Fort Myers. The second most expensive house was in Naples.
Yeah, my brother lost his entire dock and everything. He sent me a video of it. It's rough. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
A dock is lucky because the storm surge went to 25 feet.
Yeah, no, he was lucky. It didn't hit the house at all. Yeah, and of course, none of his kids were there at the time. So yeah.
And the St. Johns River just started going down 2 days ago, which is 3 weeks after the storm.
Wow, it's brutal, man. Brutal. But
so there's a
Eric, you just went on mute again, brother. Sorry.
solar power, gives you heat, light, power, and
Right.
water.
Right. Very cool. Tell you what, guys, stay with me here. What I have to do is I got to wrap up the general the general call.
See you in 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So stay with me, everybody.
Bye.
I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. I'm going to wrap up the call and get ready for the silver call. And everybody here, just stay on this call with me, please. But for those of you in the silver MBA, you can always go to the first lecture in the curriculum to join this weekly webcast we're doing, which is Zoom based at 10 a.m. My time. So give me 1 second. Everybody go on mute there.
I have to go to that. I have to change Zoom calls.
No, just stay right there. You're good. You're good. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up the call. So thank
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Rita, how are you? I'll be with you guys in a minute. I just got to wrap up the general call. So I want to thank you all for your time. This is an awesome weekly webcast. Lot of fun. If you enjoyed this call, join us again next week. Click like and subscribe and all that stuff. God bless y'all. And I'm going to end this week's webcast with this video I licensed, which is life-changing. It was a Steve Jobs interview. I licensed it from the Silicon Valley Historical Association. Thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you next week. And for those of you on Zoom, meeting my silver students, and everybody in my MBA program, stay there. I'll be with you guys soon. Thank you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.